Hey guys, Shy Got Picks here. Hope everyone's doing well and ready for another card. This week we got UFC Hill versus Roundtree live from Azerbaijan. So don't forget, this one does start early. So make sure that if you're on the West Coast in America, you're up by 9, or on the East Coast, you're up by 12. And also make sure that your bet's in and lineup set ahead of time. It's a really fun card to watch. At least I'm excited for it, with some solid matchups, a violent main event, and a few sneaky spots for some betting value. We're going to be breaking down every fight in the card, going over the best bets, and of course, talking about which fights are worth staying away from. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into the full card breakdown. For the first fight in the card, we got Mohammad Usman versus Hamdy Abdelwahab. And Mo comes into this 10-4, 36 years old, 6'2" with a 79-inch reach. Hamdy comes into this 4-0, 32 years old, 6'2" with a 73-inch reach. And honestly, this is one of the worst heavyweight matchups you'll really ever see. Both of them are not just average or just bad. They're just really, honestly, unwatchable. They're really just... If you watch Hamdy's last fight against Pogues, it was just really terrible, let's be honest. He gets the meme treatment because he has that Olympic background, but really, let's be honest, he looked really, really bad in that last fight. 2 years off in a suspension definitely did not help him. He showed no signs of improvement, no urgency. He didn't even try to wrestle, and that's supposed to be his thing. And let's be honest, that was against Pogues, who is mid, but at least has functional boxing. He has a solid jab. He has decent footwork. Hamdy couldn't do anything against Pogues when he circled. He maintained range, and he really just he never gave Hamdy a target, you know? Usman is not that. He's static. He's very flat-footed. He moves like he got cinder blocks tied to his ankles, let's be honest. He's built like a tank, but his fights are very slow and very clunky. His striking is just as bad as Hamdy's, but where Hamdy's hesitates, Usman just absorbs, let's really be honest. He doesn't really move out of the way. He doesn't block well. He just eats shots and grimaces like he's about to go down kind of thing, but he just ends up standing there somehow. And I think that's going to be a problem here. Hamdy isn't technical, but against someone who won't jab, won't circle, stands right in front of him, I think he's going to be more active than he was against Pogues. And with Usman's stiff defense, Hamdy has a decent shot at landing something meaningful at least. The difference in footwork is huge. Pogues had Hamdy guessing. Usman definitely won't. He's just going to be there, slow, hittable, and that gives Hamdy way more freedom to throw, even in his ugly form. You know, how ugly his form is. Now about the wrestling, Hamdy rarely uses it because he's terrified of gassing out. Let's be honest, his entries are solid, and he does shoot when he does shoot, but he doesn't know how to set them up. And Usman's lack of movement, I don't think a setup even really matters. I think he just needs to shoot and just really drive. Do I think Hamdy gets him down? Yeah, Usman might find a way to get back up, but his technique on the ground is really questionable as well. There's no urgency or structure, just being stronger and brute force. Hamdy can bank control time easily if he wrestles smart. Let's be honest, I'm not excited for this fight whatsoever. I think it's going to be dog shit, and I think it's going to go to decision, so that's an easy prop for us to think about. I wouldn't be laying negative 250 on Hamdy, so I'm not betting on that. But give me Hamdy by decision. Up next on the card, we got Tagir Ulanbekov versus Azat Maxim. Ulanbekov comes into this 16-2, 33 years old, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. Maxim comes into this 15-1, 30 years old, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach as well. And let's be honest, this might not be the most exciting matchup on paper, especially when Tagir was originally, looking at a ranked opponent. After beating Durden, he deserved the top 10 shot, in my opinion. Instead, he's getting another unranked name, and frankly, his team is not doing him favors with this, I don't think. Tagir's an odd case, I think. He's incredibly solid. He has great wrestling, huge for the division, and he's tough to beat, but his fights are often a lot closer than they need to be. He is a Dagestani grappling base, but he spends way too much time sitting in guard, not doing much with his top control. His submission defense is excellent, but he lets opponents hang around way longer than really necessary. Striking-wise, he's basic but effective. Long, straight punches, decent power, but he's stiff, doesn't move his head, and never checks leg kicks. He gets away with it because his size and grappling usually keeps guys from testing those weaknesses. Still, you get the sense that the first striker with good takedown defense is going to give him some serious problems in the future. With Maxim, he's a tricky guy to figure out. He does a lot of things that look good in bursts, flashy throws, heavy hands for his frame. But when you dig into the tape, It doesn't really hold up, in my opinion. His offense is super limited, mostly straight 1-2s. And when he throws hooks, they're wild and very sloppy. When he does feint a lot, and he doesn't really follow up with it effectively, in my opinion. His wrestling, it's really just not consistent. He does telegraph his entries, shoots far from far to out. And even when he lands something, his control is very weak. He can be taken down and out-scrambled. And with questionable cardio, taking the fight on short notice as well. After a long layoff, I think it's going to be rough. I think Tagir I think he's going to be able to neutralize him in the wrestling. And honestly, in most areas, I think he's a better grappler, a better scrambler. And I just think he's more physically imposing. So give me Tagir. And honestly, I think he finishes him. So I think he gets it done by submission, maybe later into the fight. So maybe later into round 2 or maybe round 3. So give me Tagir by submission. Up next on the card, we got Alekseeva versus Klaudia Sygula. Alekseeva comes into this 5-2, 34 years old, 5'8", with a 66-inch reach. Sygula is 6-2, 26 years old, 5'8", with a 59-inch reach. Let's be honest, this genuinely might be one of the worst MMA matchups that UFC has ever booked. Neither Irina nor Klaudia look UFC ready, and honestly, they don't even look PFL ready. Sygula signed on short notice just to fill in the card, let's be honest. She's marketable, sure, let's be honest, but the skill set is really absolutely not there. Her striking, it's just cardio kickboxing at best. It's light volume-based flurries that carry zero threat. She throws just to keep busy, not to hurt, and the grappling, it's just... That's really where it gets ugly. She gets taken down constantly and fishes for low percentage subs and has no game off of her back. She's really awful. She's just awful on her back. She's really, really bad on her back. On the other hand, Alekseeva is chaos in human form. Let's also be honest there. Her UFC signing still doesn't make sense to me. No hype, not young, barely fights, and just came off of a 2-year PED suspension. She strikes like someone's shadowboxing on a balance beam. She's off balance. She's wild. She's wide open. But she does throw hard and is way more aggressive than Sygula, and that's probably the difference here. Even with the terrible form and gas tank issues that Alekseeva has, she does have raw aggression that Sygula definitely does not have. Her judo is sloppy, but it's at least functional. If she gets a throw, Sygula is likely to just stay grounded because she's absolutely fucking awful on the ground. She's really, really bad on the ground. It's terrible. So, if I... gun to my head, because this is an awful fight. We shouldn't even be wasting our time watching it. Let's be honest. I think the inside distance is very raw. I really think Sygula is horrible on the back, and I do think that Alekseeva is going to eventually get her down. So give me Alekseeva inside the distance. I'm going submission. Don't care for this fight. Dog shit fight. Up next on the card, we got Darya Zhelezynakhova versus Melissa Mullins. Zhelezynakhova comes to this 9-2, 29 years old, 5'9", with a 68-inch reach. Melissa Mullins comes into this 33 years old, 5'7", with a 68-inch reach. This is very much a stylistic clash. Melissa needs to wrestle and Darya needs to strike. It's very simple. And it really is. They fought before and the dynamic was very crystal clear. Darya was torching Mullins on the feet and with fast hands, powerful combos, and nasty body kicks. She nearly had her out there. I think she almost got her out, let's be honest. But the second it hit the ground, Mullins took over. The stoppage was debatable. Darya was starting to get up, but it wasn't trending her way at all. She was getting smashed, let's be honest, as well. Fast forward to now, and neither woman has really changed. Mullins is still a takedown or bust. She doesn't have great entries, but once she gets to the clinch, her trips are effective, and her top control is very heavy. She's aggressive and with ground and pound, and has made a habit of overwhelming opponents when she is on top. Darya, in the meanwhile, still hasn't fixed her takedown defense. She has been taken down in every single UFC fight that she's been in, and even got controlled by someone like Rendon, and it's not exactly a standout grappler. Once she's on her back, Zhelezynakova's game plan really just falls apart completely, like literally completely. She'll start the fight well because she strikes well, but just no sweeps, no urgency to stand, just surviving, But on the feet, she's levels above Mullins, let's be honest. Darya's striking is sharp, technical, and powerful. I think Mullins, she just hates to get hit. She backs straight up and has zero head movement. She's been dropped multiple times. And against someone like Darya's speed and accuracy, I think that's a disaster. So, I mean, ultimately, I got Mullins by ground and pound via round 2 because I think she can eventually take her down, and I think when she's down there, I think she's gonna get this. I think she's gonna get the exact same finish that they had in their first fight. So give me Mullins by inside the distance and another dog shit fight. Let's be honest. Up next on the card, we got Ismail and Naurdiev versus Jung Park. Naurdiev comes into this 24-7, 28 years old, 6'0", 74-inch reach. Jung Park comes into this 34 years old, 5'10", with a 73-inch reach, and I see a lot of people taking both sides, and I can see it. I think the decision prop is definitely the way to go, let's be honest, because this one is kind of a difficult one. This is one of the weirdest matchups on the card. Jung Park is a reliable bet with pressure-heavy style, and he's facing Naurdiev with he's one of the most talented, but frustratingly unpredictable fighters that you'll find. Park is all about cardio and chaos. His strikes is very basic. He mostly headhunts for volume, but he never stops coming forward. He wears guys down with technique, but not with technique, but with pace. You think you're winning, but when he's in your face, he's throwing 50 strikes around and very much drowning you. Naurdiev, on the other hand, is the definition of a glass cannon. When things are going his way, he looks absolutely elite. Sharp hands, nasty kicks, decent wrestling, but he has a tendency to fall apart, sometimes out of nowhere too. His 3 losses since leaving the UFC, all fights he was winning until he just literally wasn't. His leg gives out. He eats a dumb counter. He just randomly stops fighting smart. It makes him incredibly hard to rate. On paper, he's got the tools to beat Park. He's the better striker. His kicking game could seriously mess with Park's boxing heavy style. He's more powerful, more technical, and can definitely win rounds from range if he keeps his head. But that's a big if. Park's pressure breaks guys. He doesn't respect your technique. He's just going to keep walking you down kind of guy. You know, that's where Naurdiev's cardio becomes a real concern. Even in fights, he's dominating. He fades. And I think Park is going to very much test that. And the grappling is another wild card. Naurdiev's takedown defense is solid, but once he's on his back, it's very much bad. He doesn't work to get up. And Park, while not traditionally a wrestler, is nasty from top position. He uses the clinch, trips, and judo to get it down. Then unleashes heavy ground and pound in a decent sub game. There's also the fight IQ angle. Naurdiev gives up takedowns with wild strikes or by throwing something flashy and getting caught off balance. Park isn't a slick wrestler, but he doesn't need to be. He just needs one opportunity. And so this one's really tough. It's really tough, especially given the fact that Naurdiev is just such a wild card. But I am going to take Jung Park by decision. I really wouldn't be shocked if Naurdiev takes this one. But I got to go with the turtle. I'm going with the turtle. Give me the turtle by decision. Up next on the card, we got Seokhyeon Ko versus Oban Elliott. Ko comes to this 11-2, 31 years old, 5'10", with a 71-inch reach. Elliott comes into this 12-2, 27 years old, 6'0", with a 72-inch reach. And I don't really know why the UFC is just babying Oban Elliott. He just keeps catching breaks. After a visa issue scraped his last fight, the UFC handed him Seokhyeon Ko, and a fighter who's, tough, but it might actually be a step down from Ramiz Brahimaj. I think Ko's not bad, but I think this matchup feels like another careful build for Oban. And I'll be honest, I've never been sold on Elliott. He's well-rounded with decent fight IQ, but he's not really exciting. His style is pure point fighting, just lots of jabs, low kicks, staying active, but never really turning it up. His fundamentals are clean and he makes smart reads, but there's just really no spark. That's why it's weird to see that the UFC is just so invested into this guy. He doesn't finish his fights. He doesn't fight in a fan-friendly way. And honestly, even worse, Oban's chin is a real concern. He's been knocked out twice before the UFC and wobbled multiple times, and since he reacts poorly when he gets hit. And to be fair, he recovers very quickly, but he doesn't hit hard himself, which makes things closer than they should be. Even when he's dominating technically, he's always one clean shot away from being in big trouble. With Ko, he's a brawler, plain and simple, heavy hands and aggressive. He's very limited. His whole game plan is built on leg kicks, a jab, and big hooks. He's never really throws combinations. Even when he's got guys hurt, it's just really dumb to me, to be honest. And that's a massive problem when you're facing someone like Elliott, who can get rocked but bounce back very quickly. If Ko's doesn't finish him right away, he might let him recover and slip away rounds. I definitely see that happening here. Defensively, Ko's has a lot of holes, let's be honest as well, major holes. He stands square, he doesn't move his head, and basically relies on his chin to do the job. And I think his chin, it's not uncrackable, let's be honest as well. You know, like Oban may not be a power puncher, but I shouldn't be saying let's be honest so much. He may not be a power puncher, but against someone this hittable, he may not need to be. You know, there's also the grappling angle. If Oban gets clipped, he might want to just wrestle, but Ko actually has some strong takedown defense thanks to his sambo background. He's got some powerful hips and great wizard, but like I gotta go with Oban, and I really don't know why they're just coddling him through this. I don't get it. I got Oban here. I got him by decision. Up next on the card, we got Mohammad Naimov versus Bogdan Grad. Naimov comes into this 12-3, 30 years old, 5'9", with a 78-inch reach. Grad comes into this 15-2, 29 years old, 5'8", with a 70-inch reach. And I didn't like this matchup when they first announced it. You know, it looked like another layup for Naimov, but after digging into some tape, you know, I think this might be one of the most violent fights on the card when you look into it. Both these guys are chaos merchants. There's no real technique, no clear strategy, just raw aggression, heavy shots, and a willingness to eat damage to land something big. They fight like tanks, and when they can't bulldoze their way to a win, things fall apart fast. Stylistically, I think it's a mirror matchup. Naimov has success mostly because he's been bigger, stronger than everybody that he's faced, you know, but that won't be the case here. I think Grad's fought most of his career at 155. It's clear he's filled out physically, and this will be the first time Naimov doesn't have a size or strength advantage. Grad's a pressure fighter who never stops throwing. He'll take one to give one, but he doesn't slow down, you know, he doesn't get discouraged. Naimov is the opposite. Lower volume, tries to be technical, but he's really not, and when he's pressured, he starts falling behind on the strikes. The big red flag for Grad is his wrestling. It's bad. He gets taken down very easily and struggles off of his back. Naimov isn't exactly a technician, but he's got some solid top control and enough to hold position. That could be a big problem for Grad, especially early. But Grad has the ability to just muscle his way back up. If he ever ends up on top, he's vicious with his ground and pound and doesn't really settle. He really just punishes his opponents. Cardio is another factor here. Naimov has improved his gas tank, but we've seen him redline when he can't control the pace, like in the wood fight. Grad, on the other hand, is really like a walking zombie. He just keeps moving forward until you break, even if he's like a bloody mess, you know? I think this is going to be a war. Neither guy is durable enough to take clean shots all night, but Grad's pressure, pace, and size matchup against Naimov is, I think, in a way, none of his past opponents have seen before. You know, Naimov, he hasn't seen this before. So, for once, he's not the physical bully in there. So at the end of the day, I'm picking Grad. I think he survives the early wrestling. He drags Naimov into some deep waters and outpaces him over 3 rounds. So give me Bogdan Grad by decision here in one of the sloppiest, most entertaining fights on the card. I expect some big chaos here. Give me Grad by decision. Up next on the card, we got Nazim Sadykhov versus Nikolas Motta. Sadykhov comes into this 10-1-1, 31 years old, 5'10", with a 69-inch reach. Motta comes into this 15-5, 32 years old, 5'9", with a 70.5-inch reach. Sadykhov is undefeated in the UFC, but really barely. This dude is winning fights while losing. He's winning fights while losing minutes. He's 3-0-1, yet he's been outstruck, out-wrestled, and outworked in literally almost every single outing. He's like a walking glitch in the system, surviving just long enough to pull off a highlight knockout or get bailed out by a doctor stoppage. Against Bonfim, losing until a random head kick. Against Slava, getting touched up until, again, a head kick saves the day. Elder was up 2 rounds on every card before the doctor stepped in. And even against McKinney, had him on the mat early. Sadykhov has tools, sure, but he doesn't use them well. He doesn't win clean, and that's the red flag. And yet, here he is, the favorite again. Negative 450, that's crazy. On the other side, Motta is super limited. All he has is pocket hooks. He hits hard and loves to slugfest, but his problem is that if you don't stand in front of him, he really just has no answers, and why would you stand in front of him if you know that's all he does, kind of thing. He's very one-dimensional. His chin is straight up and unreliable. Here's what makes this fight fun, though. Nazim is going to stand in front of him. That's just what he does. He's going to force the brawl because that's what he does. And that's why Motta's kind of live here. He's not good, but he's dangerous. And Nazim, with the zero head movement and bad defense, he's there to be hit. But the real question is, can Motta survive long enough to land? That's where it gets dicey. If Nazim mixes into grappling, he could win this easily. Maybe even submit Motta. But we all know that that's not going to happen. He doesn't wrestle consistently, and when he does, his control is weak. So here's how it is. The fight's going to be messy. It's going to be very violent, and I think it's going to be dumb but very fun. Two guys biting it down and trading bombs. Someone goes out, and I think Nazim survives some sketchy movements early, finds a chin in round 2. So give me Sadykhov by a round 2 knockout. Not really too confident, but this fight can go either way, let's be honest. But I'm confident it's going to be a fun one to watch. So give me Sadykhov by knockout. Up next on the card, we got Myktykbek, Orolbai versus Tofik Musayev. Orolbai comes to this 13-2-1, 27 years old, 5'10" with a 74-inch reach. Musayev comes to this 22-5, 35 years old, 5'9" with a 69-inch reach. This fight is very fire on paper, but it hurts really. Let's be honest, it really hurts knowing that one of these killers has to lose. I got a soft spot for Orolbai. I really like him, but I think this might be a really rough night for him. Let's cut to the chase. Let's be real blunt and brutal. I think he's gonna lose this one. If this stays standing on a feet, Musayev has a massive edge. He's faster, he's more technical, and knows how to land with precision. He doesn't brawl for the sake of it. He enters the pocket, throws tight combos, and exit before he gets touched. His footwork and hand speed, I think, is way, way above and way ahead of Orolbai. But Orolbai does have power. He has... and some serious power, too, let's be honest. But the technique, not there. He's flat-footed, headhunts too much, and doesn't set things up well. He's very hittable, slow to pull back, and doesn't offer much head movement. Against someone like Tofik, I think that's a very dangerous game plan. Tofik will find those openings, and when he does, he doesn't need many shots to end it. The big question is whether Orolbai can wrestle. And yes, he can, of course. He's strong, accurate with his shots, and usually gets his takedowns. But his control is not airtight. He gives up positions, he gets reversed, and hasn't shown elite level top pressure. Guys have gotten back up on him before. That's where Musayev's defensive grappling becomes key. He hasn't faced a ton of wrestlers, but he's shown decent scrambling and even mixed in some takedowns himself. He understands what he's doing, and I think he'll be able to get back up if Orolbai does take him down. Now, the one concern for Tofik is his age and the layoff. He's 35, and he hasn't fought in over a year and a half. But the break wasn't an injury, so that is good news. It was due to PFL, Bellator chaos, and his detainment during Azerbaijan riots. In his last fights, he looked as sharp as ever. No signs of decline. So here's how it is. Orolbai's path is wrestle heavy control, but if he stands and bangs, even for a little too long, he's going to get cracked. And Musayev is too fast, too precise, and too powerful for someone as defensively open as Orolbai. And so I got Musayev. I got him running by knockout. I think Orolbai is really tough, so I'm thinking maybe round 2, maybe 3. But I think this is going to be a really, really fun fight to watch. I'm picking Azerbaijani, and it's going to be really tough, and I really hate to pick against Orolbai, and it's going to be super tough to see him lose 2 in a row. But I do got Tofik to win this one, and I do think he's going to win it inside the distance. So give me Tofik inside the distance. Up next on the card, we got Curtis Blades versus Rizvan Kunayev. Blades comes to this 18-5, 34 years old, 6'4" with an 80-inch reach. Kunayev is 13-2-1, 33 years old, 6'4" with a 76-inch reach. And let's start with what we know, all right? Blades is on decline. That's straight up. Ever since the Lewis knockout, his confidence has been shot. More importantly, he's been pretty much abandoned his wrestling. His last successful takedown was back in 2021. And lately, he's been content to just strike with guys who hit harder, move faster, and take damage better than he can. Yes, he's been fighting killers, Pavlovich, Aspinall, and Gileton. They're killers. We know that. But the way he loses matters more than who he's lost to. Against Pavlovich, he didn't even attempt a takedown until it was too late. Against Aspinall, he went down to a block shot in under 2 minutes. Against Gileton, he was getting outworked and outgrappled until a single mistake flipped the script. He hasn't been outclassed by scrubs, but it's clear Curtis doesn't fight like a top 5 heavyweight anymore. If he's not wrestling, I'm not sure. I just don't get it. I'm not sure what else he brings to the table if he's not wrestling. His striking is very basic, mostly just boxing, mostly headhunting. His durability has been taking a big hit, 5 knockout losses just don't go away. Then you got Rizvan Kunayev. I'm not here to say he's elite, but he's solid everywhere and hasn't shown many holes. I think he's one of the best prospects coming into this heavyweight division. He's not lost a round on tape. His wrestling might not blow you away, but he can defend takedowns, stay safe on the ground, and reverse position when needed. That alone makes him a tough matchup for the current version of Blades. Striking-wise, I actually favor Kunayev. He's not fast, but he's calculated. Solid jab, good leg kicks, smart movement, and a real Sonda base, He makes clean reads, doesn't overextend. He also shown good cardio and, more importantly, real durability. I haven't seen him get hurt. I haven't seen him get rocked or overwhelmed. Even when he's been in bad positions, he stayed composed and he gets out of it. You can also read between the lines in the matchmaking here. The fight was rebooked twice, both in Muslim majority countries. That is not an accident. The UFC wants Kunayev to win. They're giving him favorable optics and fading name to break through, And while Blades has the resume, Kunayev has the momentum. And stylistically, this fight favors him more than people realize. So, I got Kunayev, and make fun of me as much as you want. Do it. I don't care. I got Kunayev by knockout. I don't see Blades being a top 5 contender anymore, and I see Kunayev splashing here. I got him being better than Walker, so I got Kunayev by knockout. Up next on the card, we got Rafael Fiziev versus Ignacio Bahamondes. Fiziev is 12-4, 32 years old, 5'8" with a 71.5-inch reach. Bahamondes is 17-5, 27 years old, 6'3" with a 75.5-inch reach. This might be one of the toughest fights on the card to predict, let's be honest. I gotta stop saying let's be honest, but on paper, Rafael Fiziev should be the guy. You got the better striker, better technician, and a matchup that historically favors his style. But there are some real red flags you just can't ignore in this fight. His last fight was a total disaster. 2 years off, 1 week's notice, no training camp. He looked flat, he looked slow, and he had no game plan going into it. That alone isn't enough to count him out. But the lack of movement, that's what worries me. Fiziev's entire game is built on speed, his footwork, and his fast twitch reactions. If the ACL injury really got rid of that, then I think he's in trouble. Without his trademark movement, Fiziev becomes more hittable. His striking defense was never airtight to begin with, and if he can't dodge or explode like he used to, I could see him getting overwhelmed in this fight. With Bahamondes, he isn't without flaws, of course. He's long, he's creative, he pushes a high pace, but he tends to fight down to shorter opponents. Both of his UFC losses came against fighters Fiziev's size because he stayed in boxing range instead of using his length and kicks. If he does that again against Fiziev, I think Fiziev is going to light him up. The time feels different, though. Bahamondes has the momentum. I think he's fresher. I think he's on the streak. Meanwhile, Fiziev has a 3-fight losing streak, and he's entering with a full fight camp. Fiziev, on the other hand, is returning with a injury, back-to-back losses, and recent war. Even if he's in shape, I don't know if he's the same guy physically. So I do think Ignacio Bahamondes wins this one by decision. He is younger and he is the fresher one with the momentum. And if Fiziev's movement isn't back to 100%, I think Bahamondes is going to outpace him in this fight. So give me Bahamondes by decision. Up next on the card, we got the main event of Jamal Hill versus Khalil Roundtree Jr. Jamal Hill comes into this 12-3, 34 years old, 6'4" with a 79-inch reach. Roundtree Jr. is 13-6. 35 years old, 6'1" with a 76.5-inch reach. This one is a very weird one for the main event, but I'm definitely not mad about it whatsoever. Hill and Roundtree are heavy-handed strikers who bring in chaos. They usually lead to fireworks at the end of the night. That being said, I can't help but raise an eyebrow at the betting odds. I get that Hill's dealing with injuries and hasn't looked elite lately, but I still think Khalil is getting way too much love here. I honestly can't. I thought Hill would have been opening up at a -200 odds, going up to -250. Talking about Khalil, people keep hyping him up because one of those first 2 rounds he had against Alex Pereira, but he showed heart and he hung in there, but he still got diminished. and dismantled by Poatan, as soon as he flipped the switch. That wasn't some high IQ outclassing. It was just gutsy effort that eventually got steamrolled. Beyond that, his resume is very, very thin if you really look at it. Without the controversial win over Jacoby and the no contest, his record sits at 12-8. His most notable win is probably the Anthony Smith win, it's Anthony Smith, The rest, pretty weak. A couple of highlight KOs over the unranked guys, not exactly elite stuff. When Jamal Hill, on the other hand, he's faced much better guys. His win column isn't full of killers either, but he's been in deeper waters. And unlike Khalil, Hill's actually reached the top. He's wore the belt before. Maybe he didn't defend it. Maybe he isn't an all-time great, but he made it. That's more than Khalil can say. Now, the red flags for Hill are absolutely real, of course. The knee injury that cost him the belt has flared up multiple times, and he's been inactive because of that. 3 re-injuries is very serious. It's the kind of thing that doesn't just go away. He's also not a young guy anymore, and the window for being a top-tier fighter might be closing. But even in his last fight where Yuri Prohaska ultimately finished him, he still showed grit. He got dropped but bounced back. He made it a competitive fight for a while. Stylistically, I think this fight favors Hill. Roundtree needs control and space to be effective. When he's allowed to pick his shots, he looks great. He looks slick and explosive and very much dangerous. But when someone pressures him and forces him in a dogfight, his game plan starts to very much fall apart. That's exactly what Bogdan did to him. He applied pressure and he broke him down. Hill's not going to give him that comfort zone. He's aggressive. He throws combinations and doesn't really stop pressing forward. He's got sneaky good cardio despite his build and loves turning fights into a war of attrition. Khalil, on the other hand, tends to freeze when he gets hit and doesn't like being in slugfest. He's mentally fragile and struggles when things get ugly. Even though Hill's been knocked out a couple of times recently, I wouldn't say he has a weak chin. He'll eat shots and keep moving forward, which could be really messy with Roundtree mentally. Add that with Hill's boxing, I think his boxing is sharper and more fluid, especially in combination. And I think that's going to be the difference here in this fight. The leg kicks from Khalil are definitely a concern. If Hill's compromised, that can absolutely add up in this fight. But if his knee holds up just enough, he can get in Khalil's face. I think this plays out exactly the way Hill wants. Hill's volume, I think his pressure and his durability, I think are going to take over this fight as it goes on. Unless Hill is truly cooked from the injuries, I can see him dragging Khalil into deeper waters and finally finishing him later into the fight, maybe round 3, maybe round 4. Neither of these guys are flawless, but if Hill has anything left in the tank, I think this is his fight to lose. So give me Hill, and I got him by finish. I got him by late 3 or maybe round 4 finish. I'm pretty confident on this one. I can't believe he's a pick'em, to be honest. All right, guys, that wraps it up for me on breaking down UFC Hill versus Roundtree. Remember, it's an early start time this week, so make sure you have everything locked ahead of schedule. If you found the breakdown helpful, drop a like and subscribe. It helps the channel grow and keeps the content going. Let me know in the comments below who you're backing in this week and if there's a fight you're staying away from. Good luck on your bets. Enjoy the fights, and I'll see you in the next one.